Compounding the dilemma is the fact it takes 8 to 10 years to properly train a soldier and up to 20 years to create a top-ranked officer.
I know this is, people are a bit outstanding or are a bit shocked that a soldier takes as long to train as a medical doctor, but nowadays that is the truth.
We're going to cover a few different things, all right? Three main components of firefighting on board ships. That would be the thermal imaging camera.
There won't be people to train the next cohorts, which is a fact.
Okay, put the canister in.
What's more worrying is that the people who are coming along behind those who are going to leave shortly tend to have fewer years in rank, less experience in many areas, and they are less experienced than as trainers and as leaders. And that's where the problem's going to arise.
We've known for years that the best recruiter is the retiring person. And in the 70s and 80s, when the people were required, they said that was a good go. And they would tell their family, they would tell their friends. And the children of those families and friends, in turn, join the forces. Now, when our personnel are retiring, they're saying, don't go there. There's no planes to fly. It's endless overtime. You're never home. There is not the equipment. There's not the training opportunity. The forces are not what they used to be. Don't go there.
There is also the issue of whether the government gets enough bang for its military buck, particularly when local political issues are pushed onto the military's plate.
There is a legitimate question that should be being asked. For $13 billion a year, is this all we get? At one stage, the Auditor General commented with respect to an internal Department of National Defense study, which said that we could run the entirety of the Defense Department on about 12 major bases across Canada. All of those other bases are being kept open as a means of providing employment in that local area.
I am persuaded that there are large numbers of internal inefficiencies and a number of non-military objectives that have been foisted upon the department that waste perhaps 40 to 50% of the defense budget. There is a large legacy of infrastructure of over 30 bases, and the Army really only needs 3, the Air Force needs 2, and the Navy needs probably 2. Probably going from over 30 to 7 is perhaps a bit severe, but I think we could reduce infrastructure severely. As we see the Hercules fleet fade, one questions, why would you keep Trenton open for 6 aircraft? As we see the Sea King fade and not replaced for 10 years, one would ask, well, why would you maintain base Shearwater? A base costs, on average, $100 million a year and employs between 500 and 1,000 people. They are great regional employers of people. It is a great means for the Canadian government to maintain employment across the country. And so there is not the political will to close out these bases. And so they have just gone on and gone on.
When I left the Defense Department, the budget was about $12.4 billion. That's a hell of a lot of money. 50% of it was going into the supporting of bases and sewers and overhead and all the people it takes to run all those things. And I never saw a sewer yet that could fight worth a damn.
Since 1971, the Department of National Defense in Ottawa has been jointly run by civilians and the military. But with 7,000 employees, the argument has been made that headquarters is top-heavy with managers, not soldiers.
From 1947 to 1964, the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Forces was run by basically 8 senior people. Those 8 people ran a Canadian Forces and a department of almost 200,000 people. 126,000 were in uniform. We now found ourselves 40 years later with 24 senior departments or senior directorates within those various branches with the Canadian Forces and a department of half the size. So we have to really wonder where the growth is. And the growth is in the senior management And the shrinkage is in the soldiers and the technicians who generate the true capability that we need.
The political issues surrounding buying Canadian versus buying equipment off the shelf from another nation has also plagued Canada's equipment budgets for decades.
Mark my words, when a new shipbuilding program is announced for the Navy or the Coast Guard, the Canadian government will determine that those billions of dollars are better spent in Canada than going offshore to another country. They will spend billions of dollars reestablishing the shipbuilding industry and then get around to actually building the ships. Clearly, the most cost-effective way of obtaining new ships is to buy them offshore from another nation. The United States, the British, the Germans build very good ships. We could buy frigate, destroyer class ships from any of those countries. What this all boils down to is that it costs you almost double to build the ships in Canada. But I think the alternative to that, building them offshore, would be politically unacceptable to a Canadian government.
From renting U.S. planes to fly our soldiers to the Red River flood in 1997, to requiring U.S. help to get our soldiers to Afghanistan in 2002, with little or no transportability of our own, the snowballing effect of money being spent ineffectively and for non-military objectives will lead to serious consequences for future governments.
If the equipment isn't there, then the foreign minister who wants to then have Canada play a significant role on the world stage in dealing with problems that desperately need to be solved, then that foreign minister and the prime minister is not going to be able to do that.
I guess the question is, what is a foreign policy, or for that matter, a defense policy, supposed to do? And these two policies should go hand in hand. You have to know the kind of Canada that you want to have in the future. You also have to know the kind of world that you're likely to face in the future. And then you can develop a policy that will allow you to guide the country into that kind of world, or through that kind of a nasty world. And it is a nasty world out there, which is something that a lot of Canadians don't seem to understand as well.